It's a ham radio.
The Cadillac of ham radios.
Hello everyone, welcome back to yet another episode of Ham Radio, a Stranger Things podcast. We've got a great episode for you today as usual, but first, we have a little housekeeping to take care of, and I'm going to turn it over to Jasmin to let you know where you can find us on social media and where you can listen to the podcast.
Thanks, Ashley. You can find us on Instagram at Ham Radio Media, all one word, on Twitter at HamFro, on YouTube at Ham Radio Media, or using our handle Ham Radio 1983. We also have a Discord you can join, which is linked in the description of this episode. If you have a fan theory or question you want to share, you can email us at hamradiomedia@gmail.com. Ashley also has a fanfic on AO3 entitled Stranger Things College, which is also linked in the description. The podcast is available on all major podcasting platforms, including Apple Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Amazon Music, and much more. If you like the show, please consider leaving us a rating or review. We have a lot of totally tubular stuff coming up, so be sure to follow us on social media to keep up with the podcast and all of our new content.
Hello everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Ham Radio, a Stranger Things podcast. Today we will be talking about the new promotional content we've gotten so far for season 5 of Stranger Things. But first, Jasmin, would you like to tell them about the Riverside goof?
Yes. So for those of you that don't know, we recently switched to a new editing software that we are loving. And one of its features is that it gives you a transcript of everything that you say while you're talking. And it allows you to edit that way, which is really great. And the software is pretty good. But every so often it gets something like hilariously wrong. And so we thought we would share this with you. So the word we actually said was Demogorgon. And it normally gets that, actually. It's able to pull stuff from, that's available on the internet. So it usually does actually understand the terms that we're saying from the show. But this time it didn't. And it went with, so I'm going to read it for you guys. So it goes, or your dead Regretta Boons are coming at them in season 1. They just go at them like they did with Bob, and why leave this guy? He's alive. The more you think about it, it doesn't make sense, But yeah, it interpreted Demogorgons as dead Regretta Boons. So we thought we'd share that with you guys because we had a good laugh about that one.
Yes, gotta love them Regretta Boons, I hope that is not a word in Webster's dictionary, because Jasmin, we need to get some t-shirts made with that, because, get
some merch, just dead Regretta Boons. Gotta watch out for those dead Regretta Boons,
and the funniest part about that was whenever you, I listened to the recording, and it did not sound like Regretta Boons at all. It was very clear to me. It sounded like Demogorgons. I don't know how the transcript generator there picked up Regretta Boons out of that. But there was some other time it had we had said Demodogs or something, and it had something with poo in it or something. It was really weird, but this one,
it was Demapoos or something.
Yeah, it was.
I think that's what it was.
Yeah, but this one definitely took the cake with not even remotely the same word. It was they basically just made up a word.
It's funny, the software made up a word to replace a made up word that somebody else made up,
Just when you think you've seen it all. So with the Stranger Things 5 promo content that released in January, at the end of January, in fact, on Thursday, January the 30th, the What's on Netflix shared a promotional trailer of what's to come to Netflix in 2025. The video included teasers from the quote-unquote Big Three, that being Stranger Things, Wednesday, and Squid Game. In it, we see an actress going through the various sets of Netflix shows that are set to air new seasons in 2025. The video opens on a boardroom where a woman is showing a group of people at a table the episode titles for Stranger Things 5, and one of the employees presses play on season 4 of Stranger Things and on her phone, and she immediately starts levitating into the air. The lights flicker, and she's transported to the Upside Down. On the table are missing posters for Jane Hopper and a WSQK radio station mug. A Demogorgon then bursts through the wall and throws the employee through a wall into a library where she's transported to the set of Squid Game and then runs through various other sets.
So do you want to talk about like our first reactions when we saw this? Because I thought this trailer was pretty cool. Like, I think they put a ton of time into this, that you could tell how much, money and time Netflix put into recreating each of the worlds. And I read the Tudum article that came out about where they broke down like every single thing we see. Like, some stuff I didn't even catch. For example, like when they go through the library, the books that like come into the frame and pause have meaning as well. Like every little detail, like they, or even just posters behind people while they're running. They put so much time into this, and it kind of felt like we know you guys have been waiting forever. We know you're excited. We want to reassure you that this stuff is coming out. It is going to be out this year, because people are obviously getting like very antsy because, okay, it's supposed to be coming out this year, but when is it coming out? You haven't told us. It's been so delayed. So I was like really impressed. I was like, oh my god, I was like freaking out when I saw it. And then upon rewatching it, I didn't catch the missing posters or the mug like the first time around. Like, it took me a few watches before I caught that and realized like that stuff was on the table.
Yeah, neither did I. Well, I noticed the mug off the bat, but I didn't really notice that the flyers on the table were missing posters. And if I had have noticed that off the bat, I would have just assumed it was for the apparent missing children that are going to go missing in season 5. But I didn't clock the specifics on the missing poster until after I think I either saw like on Instagram or Twitter, like people were pointing it out that it was of 11. But yeah, I thought it was a very cool trailer. Like I loved the graphics and everything. I thought they did an excellent job with it, and yeah, it was fun to pick up all the other little Easter eggs fluttered throughout it. I think somebody said that you could also see like posters for the first shadow play in the background, which, regardless of how you feel about the play, which, Jasmin and I, we both have our thoughts on it. I and some others had kind of took that as maybe they're kind of hinting at maybe it could come to Netflix sometime this year, which, again, like, I would love to see it. I mean, I've heard really good things about it. And I know even though it is coming to Broadway this year, like that's a expensive trip, to go see that. And I, for one, would love for it to come on Netflix to be able to watch it. And my thought on it is, hey, look, if you're dead set on, hey, this play is canon and it will help you to go watch it before season 5, then if it's that important to the show and to the ending of the show, then I believe that everyone should have access to this play. But that's my soapbox.
Yeah, my initial take, I saw some people pointed that out too, that the posters in the background, I think when they're running down the alley, and my first thought was maybe just because it's connected to a Netflix property, like it is technically a licensed property, that's why they were showing it. But it is also possible that it is going to, eventually they're going to do a recording, or already have done a recording of the play, and they are going to stream that on Netflix. I would presume they'd probably do that after season 5 comes out. That would be kind of my feeling, because that's, you want to put the cart before the horse type thing. And I also get the sense that because it was kind of weird it started in London, considering this is an American show, and now it's coming to Broadway, they would probably want to get the most bang for their buck and have it do its full Broadway run and then put it on Netflix. But I mean, if it does well, there's also a possibility they could do a touring production. So I feel like if they're going to bring it to Netflix as like a recorded version, kind of like they've done with Hamilton for Disney Plus, I feel like they're probably going to wait until the touring productions have started and then do it. Because if you put it on Netflix, it's like, well, people who live close enough to go see the show don't really have an incentive the same way that if that's the only way to see it. So that would be my guess. And also, I suppose it kind of depends on when season 5 is coming out, because we don't have a release date yet. There were some rumors about it being in the fall, but then there was some conflicting stuff where the Duffer Brothers were interviewed, and at one point they were like, oh, we're trying to get it out this year, we don't know. And people were like, oh my god, it's going to be 2026. But then they were interviewed again, and they were like, oh yeah, actually we're ahead of production. So we're ahead of schedule, so it should be out sooner than we thought. So personally, I guess it's just a PSA. Don't believe everything you read or hear. It's clearly an ongoing conversation as they work on the editing and the special effects and all that stuff that takes time. So I think it will be out this year. It would be a weird marketing strategy to do all of this and then be like, psych, it's coming out next year. And it sounds like they're getting close. So I think that would also depend on when that winds up coming out, how far into the Broadway run it is. So we'll have to see, but it would be cool if it does come to Netflix.
Yeah, for sure. And the one thing I will say real quick on this is, well, we know like Squid Game season 3 already has a release date in sometime in June. I mean, my personal theory is that they're going to release Stranger Things 5 after Squid Game and Wednesday, because it is such a big show for them. That's my own personal take on it.
Yeah, for me, I mean, that's definitely possible. I think it's kind of dependent on when they get the editing done and what else is going on when that's completed, you know? Because you're right, they might want to wait a bit too, because it's such a big show for them. At the same time, I feel like if it came out that they'd had it completed and they chose to delay the release, I feel like that would create more bad PR than it would be worth. Like if it came out that that they'd had it and they were just like hanging on to it when it already been so delayed, I feel like that would do more harm than good. So my personal theory is that it's, as soon as, they're done editing, they're going to set, dates for it, but we will see.
Yeah, for sure. And I know that some people have taken their comments of we're ahead of schedule on post-production to mean, oh, it's coming out the summer. And it's like, well, not necessarily. Maybe ahead of schedule means, oh, we're not going to be like we were in season 4 and literally editing in up to the last second of when the episodes drop on Netflix. I mean, we know that the Duffer Brothers have been very open about that. That they were literally editing. I know Volume 2 of Season 4 on the day of release, and then even had to go back and after everything had been released and finish up some things editing wise. So I feel like contextually that's what they're meaning here, which I think is great, because as we've spoken about many times on this show about season 4, was a lot of the trouble was they just ran out of time to do things. So hopefully we won't have that issue in season 5.
Yeah, I hope so too. It sounds like, the editing process is going better than it did last time. Because I also feel like that contributed to a lot of the errors that we saw. Like they spoke about, the birthday stuff, the fact that the fans thought it was an Easter egg because the phone number that's listed when they're trying to find Elle is different than in the show. And they later said that, yeah, it wasn't an Easter egg. The editor had put in like a dummy, they'd put in like a dummy number while they were working on it. And so stuff like that didn't get caught until after it had been released, where fans thought, oh my God, it's an Easter egg. And it's like, no, we just put in one number and it had to be updated. And so, yeah, it sounds like things are going better for season 5, which is really good, which is really, really good for everybody. So getting back to the promo content, later that day, after the trailer had been released, the official Stranger Things accounts shared a close-up version of the missing poster for Jane Hopper, with the caption, "Who's really looking for Jane Hopper? You're not ready for what's to come in Stranger Things 5." And the whole "you're not ready for blank" has been a big part of their marketing strategy for the shows that are coming out this year. So that's kind of been the tagline and the catchphrase that they're going with when they're doing the marketing. They're like, "You're not ready for this." So I thought that was cool. And in the poster, they use her Lenora Hale's mugshot, and she's listed as a missing teen who is 15 years old and was last seen at Hawkins High on June 13th, 1986. Her birthday is listed as 06/07/71, which could be June 7th or July 6th. Given the events of Starcourt, it's more likely to be June 7th, as her birthday isn't mentioned in season 3. However, Will's birthday was mentioned in season 2, and they messed that up in season 4, so who knows?
I mean, who knows, right? No, I feel like with 11, if her birthday had been July the 6th in season 3, they would, at least Mike would have definitely dropped everything to celebrate her birthday. Although there was season 3 supposed to be an episode titled The Birthday, but they changed that. I think it's E Pluribus Unum. So I don't know. But my only really thought on her birth date is that I know here in the States it's month, day, year of your birth. But it's still cool that we now have a canonical birthday for 11. I really feel sad for her that the only good picture that anyone could find of her was her mugshot. I think that's terrible. Like, did she not take a photo for the yearbook at Lenora High?
I mean, it kind of. I saw people online being like, "Oh my god, this is the only photo of the L that exists." I mean, I'm sure that either implies that like her family's not taking photos of her or not for the yearbook because they don't want those out there. Like I remember there being some kids who didn't have photos in the yearbook. They just have like the little like shadow of like a person in their place. So either she didn't sit for one on purpose, or if her family does have photos, I feel like they did not provide them. They were like, "Oh, they got damaged in the move," because they're obviously not going to help these people, but also would look suspicious. So also, that depends on who made the missing poster, right? If this is something the military did, that would be the only photo they would have access to. Because, yeah, I feel like if it's Hawkins PD, it'd be kind of weird for them not to go to the family and be like, "Hey, do you guys have a photo of her?" So, I kind of gives you the vibe they just pulled what they had in the system rather than asking the family. Because it seems to be something that, like, the police or the military have created, not something that her family has done. So, I don't know if they just pulled what they had in the system. As much as they don't want a record of things, I find it hard to believe her family and friends don't have a single photo of her after this many years.
Yeah, for sure. And I mean, definitely the military's behind it. They're not gonna take times for pleasantries to be like, "Oh, let's find a good picture of her so that the public doesn't think this is a wanted poster." Uh, But yeah, which is why initially I thought this was a wanted poster because it had her mugshot on it, and just by the language, I thought, oh, it's a wanted poster. Which again, if the military is behind it, we know it's a wanted poster, but they're just playing it off as a missing poster. But I found the date of when she was last seen to be very interesting. Again, if the military is behind this, you would think that they would have her being last seen in March of 25th or something, March of 1986, after they returned to Hawkins. But yeah, I find it very interesting. Is the show trying to tell us like, hey, this is the first time jump you're going to see this season? Because June 13th is an awfully specific date.
Yeah, it is, and that puts the time jump of when this happens about 2 months after we last see the characters. So yeah, it makes me wonder if she went to go see Mike or was out and about for some reason and they spotted her that day, and so that's the day that they picked, that she was spotted for some reason. It makes me wonder if something happened on this date, or they're trying to indicate that, because you're right, they could have just said, hey, last seen in March of 86, and when they lost track of her. So, and if they've come to Hawkins looking for her, that would make more sense. So, yeah, I don't know. And obviously, the military is trying to make this look like a wanted poster. Like, they're saying it's missing to cover their butts, but they're obviously trying to make it look like a wanted poster. So when people see it, their first reaction is, this person is wanted, so they'll look out for her more. They're clearly trying to do that. So that it also makes me wonder, we see that everybody dies except for Sullivan and his two cronies. So it makes me wonder if this is more of an internal thing where following that, Sullivan is fired and his cronies are fired, and somebody else takes the job. The way we saw how Owens took over for Brenner, and then Owens was fired and this guy took over. So I wonder if maybe somebody else was just put into that job, and it took them a couple of months to sort that all out, cover up everything. And then by the time that had happened, figured out, okay, they might be back in Hawkins, or let's talk to her friends, the people that the family knew in Hawkins. And it took about 2 months for that to happen. And then they didn't get anywhere, and they did spot her. She was spotted by somebody, or, that's how long it took them to kind of track her down, so to speak. So I kind of wonder if it might be something like that, where this is how long it took them to actually track her down or for her to be spotted. So that's more what I was wondering, but it does appear that there are at least 2 time jumps, one from March to June, and another from June to the fall of 1987, which is quite a jump.
So the poster lists a $3,000 reward, which is the equivalent of over $5,000 in today's money, which I thought was kind of low for reward money for a missing child. She's said to have disappeared in the afternoon while walking down the sidewalk near Hawkins High, which would indicate she was attending school there, which is odd considering that she's supposed to be in hiding, unless she went there to see Mike or another character, but that seems like a very big risk for her to take, given the circumstances. At that time, you could call the number on the flyer, but however, that number no longer works, and listen to a voicemail that said, quote, "Thank you for calling the Hawkins Police Department. Due to a 7.4 magnitude earthquake, Hawkins is currently under lockdown to ensure the safety of our residents. The Hawkins Emergency Task Force is still working closely with Hawkins PD to track down missing persons, of which Jane Hopper is a priority. We encourage you as a responsible citizen of Hawkins to assist us in our search to locate her."
Yeah, I feel like there's a lot to unpack there. And you're right, it is, based on typical rewards, a bit low, but it kind of made it like, well, the military wants to find her, but apparently not that badly, Like, they're kind of lowballing this. Like, they want to find her, but also... I think part of that, though, is like in cases I've seen of like real missing children, it's usually a kind of a group effort. Like, you have part of what like the police or the FBI or whoever will put in, and then you have the family, and then you have the community or people will donate. Where this is a case where it's only the military putting up this money, because Hawkins PD doesn't have that type of cash. Her family isn't doing that because they don't want her to be, quote, found, because these people are working against them. So I feel like it's just because this is only the military putting up the money. And yeah, I'm interested to see when the show comes out, if she, what are the circumstances in which she is seen, because her re-enrolling and them bringing her back into high school there, to me, doesn't make a whole lot of sense, considering she was struggling so badly in Lenora, and considering that would be such a major risk, and we know how adamant Hopper is about not taking those kind of risks. So for him to go from not letting her leave the cabin for like a year to being like, yeah, sure, you can re-enroll in school, but also her going to visit Mike or another character seems like an awfully big risk. So the only thing I could think of apart from that was maybe something happened and she was there trying to warn them or trying to help them, like something that necessitated her coming out of hiding, and she got spotted, and so her and Hopper had to go, like, quote, further into hiding during this time, because we've seen photos of Hopper in the big beard and everything, and I remember David Harbour was interviewed at some point, and he was saying, having to justify the whole beard thing. And at the time, Ashley, you and I were like, is this just because he was filming Thunderbolts at the same time? And I think there might be a little bit of that, but also it could just be that they're trying to disguise his identity because she was spotted and they have to be in hiding. But also from the comments, it sounds like they are interacting, what we've seen, they are interacting with the rest of the family and the other characters. So it looks like there might be multiple reasons for that look this season. And I think it's clever of the military to frame it this way. They seem to be framing it as, we're trying to locate all these missing people. We see at the end of season 4 the big bulletin board that all these people are missing or presumed dead. And so they're framing it like, oh, this is another child that's gone missing. We're trying to locate her. Please help us do this. So many kids have gone missing, while at the same time making it look like a wanted poster. So I think it's clever on their part. It's probably the first clever thing we've seen the military do so far.
Yeah, for sure. And the fact that just based here on the terminology of the poster, mainly being due to a 7.4 magnitude earthquake, Hawkins is currently under lockdown. The show is basically telling us, like, in season 5, Hawkins is going to be, I would presume, martial law, maybe quarantine or lockdown. And, I feel like by this point, the military definitely knows that this is not an earthquake. And under normal circumstances, that they know this has to do with the upside down. And so, yeah, I think that part is going to be very interesting for sure to see 11 trying to hide her identity, because throughout the show, like seasons 1, 2, and 3, when she's been in Hawkins, she's done that. Like, the only season she didn't was season 4, because she was not in Hawkins in season 4. I'm kind of conflicted in a way, because I was kind of hoping that season 5, we wouldn't go back to that as much, but I understand it, and I understand why they kind of have to, because everything with the military in season 4, and if you don't carry that storyline over to season 5, what was the point? But also because, again, in the first 3 seasons of the show, 11 was in hiding, and because she's always been on the run from someone, from the government, and now with the military. But yeah, it's going to be very interesting to see for sure. And I also wonder if maybe she could have been lured out there under false pretenses, and it be like a trap, and she recognized that once she got out there to the Hawkins High School, and then the military was like, oh, rats, we have to go. Now we definitely have to go find her, because she did not fall into our trap.
Yeah, that's a good idea. I hadn't thought of that. But yeah, it could be a trap of some kind. And it makes me wonder, maybe there's something going on with Vecna, but I feel like he wouldn't want her captured. Like, something season 4 makes really clear is that this is a guy that does his own dirty work. Like, he seems actively upset if other people get in his way. So he's very much a villain that, like, does not want anybody else doing his dirty work for him. When he wants something or he wants to take somebody out, he does it himself. But I wonder if it could be kind of a combination of things. Like, maybe the military was setting some type of trap, or maybe Vecna, like, concurrently was doing something, and those two things, like, lured her out, so to speak, and then she was spotted, or she realized, like you said, it was a trap, and then they were like, oh, shoot, that didn't work, so now we have to put on a missing poster. And it makes me wonder, too, if, like, maybe it has something to do with why we don't know what Vecna's up to during this time, but it seems an awfully long time for him not to strike. And we don't really get a lot of information as to what happened on the anniversary between what we didn't see between season 3 and season 4. Did something happen? Did he start messing with people around that time? We don't know. But, the anniversary in November is obviously very important to him. And so I don't know if maybe whatever the military is doing, maybe that has something to do with why he doesn't strike, so to speak, until like a year and a half later. You know what I mean? Like, maybe they keep inadvertently messing up his plans, where, like, he wants to do his own dirty work here and they keep getting in the way, where he's like, no, like that whole thing in season 4 where he's like, he wanted Elle to watch. He doesn't want her dead, not right away. Like, he wants to be the one to pick them off, and he wants her to witness it. So maybe they keep inadvertently getting in the way of his plans. Like, maybe they're like canceling each other out, so to speak. Maybe that's why it takes so long for him to strike again. Or maybe there is another strike and we just, we haven't seen that yet. Maybe there's going to be, I don't know, 3 time jumps, or we're going to get some explanation here. But it does make me wonder what could have lured her out or caused her to be there, you know. And presumably, because we pick up in the fall of 87, her and Hopper go back into hiding, and it presumably works. Whatever they do the second time must work, because we don't pick up with them until like a year and a half later.
Yeah, and also, do you think is it possible that, speaking of Vecna, that maybe he conjured up, quote unquote, 11 out there to make the military think that she's out there, because I mean, we know like his main goal, especially now, is to get her and to kill her. And I think that he would go to any length that it took, because I just go back to what he said in his monologue in season 4 and episode 7 of talking about humans and all that. And I just think that he strikes me as the type that really loves to prove a point. And I think that in an effort to defeat 11 and her friends and loved ones, he would probably definitely try to inadvertently, I guess, or make it seem inadvertent that the military came onto his side to help get to her. I think that's another possibility.
Yeah, that's definitely possible. Like, I was kind of picturing maybe something where she thinks Mike or somebody else is in danger, so she goes to see them and there's actually nothing wrong. Or, he's trying to make it seem like they're, him and the military are on the same side, and perhaps whatever happens makes her realize that he's just messing with her, and that that's not actually the case, and that, like, you know. And also, we never found out what was up with Miss Kelly. So the possibility that Vecna is getting help from someone in the real world, whether they know it or not, is also a possibility that's out there, and we don't know who these new characters are playing, a bunch of them. So it is possible that someone in the military is helping him, whether they're aware of it or who he really is or not. That's also a possibility. If there is something up with Miss Kelly, there's a lot of possibilities there that they could be knowingly helping each other, or like unknowingly they don't realize that they're doing it, or they don't realize that that's who he is. Or he could just be messing with Elle, like you said, to prove a point and be like, they're all on my side, or I can do whatever I want. I can make you think this, So it's gotta be something pretty dire, or something like pretty impressive, I gotta say, though, because, Elle and Hopper aren't stupid. She's not just gonna go out there, for nothing. So whatever this is has to be pretty significant.
Yeah, for sure. And she's also too smart for that, and she's just been through so much just to instantly fall for that. So yeah, I mean, number one, if anything's even remotely happening to Mike, or she feels that way, it'd be like she's going to go to his aid. And also maybe she maybe thought it had something to do with Max or something. I mean, I don't know. I'm just throwing out all the possibilities here. But this reminds me of something I heard the other day, and I've been listening to the audiobook of the Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows, and the other day I was listening to chapter 12, and there's a moment in there where Harry is lamenting about how frustrated he is that the wizarding world and the wizarding community, including the Ministry of Magic, is so focused on going after him for a crime that he did not commit, that being Dumbledore's death in the Half-Blood Prince. And they're so focused on that instead of focusing on Voldemort, who they know is back and who they know is enacting a reign of terror to get to him, Harry. Um, and so, when I heard that, I was like, I have to include it in my prep for this week's episode, because we know Harry Potter is a pretty big influence on Stranger Things, and when I heard that line in the book, I just immediately, my mind flocked to this poster, because I'm like, this is exactly what I feel like 11 is going to be dealing with in season 5 of, hey, military. Like, by now you already know about Henry Creel, you already know about the Upside Down, you know these things, and yet you're still coming after me for crimes that I had nothing to do with and that I did not commit. And you should be focused on helping me defeat him,
Yeah, absolutely. I definitely think that could be part of it. The whole kind of misdirect where the military, the government, whatever, is focusing on this one thing that they know isn't legitimate, rather than deal with the bigger issue because that's too overwhelming for them, or they don't have the solution, or they don't want to admit it's a thing. And I think there's a great metaphor is the wrong word, but a good representation there of that is something that governments do in real life. Well, they'll distract the population with a shiny object or an issue while not addressing what's really going on, the bigger issues that are out there. So I could definitely see it being something like that, where they're going after her because that's something that they could focus on. And like we saw in season 4, like, they know damn well that it's not her. They've just convinced themselves of this, that they kill her and kill all of her friends and everything, that's going to magically solve all their problems. And even though they know that that's not the case, that's not really going to solve the problem. Owens outright says that. He goes, like, if I'm wrong, I'll pull the cord myself. I'll pull the plug myself. But they just don't want to admit that, because that would mean admitting that the government knowingly created a monster in Henry Creel, that he's wreaking havoc, they can't control him. And, pretending that it's this 15-year-old girl that you can kill or you think you can control is so much of an easier problem to, in their minds, quote, solve, than admitting that they created Henry Creel, who is not that, he's not someone who's easily controlled or easily killed. And so I definitely think that's part of what they're doing here, that, or could be, that they're trying to focus on this thing that they convince themselves is the answer, when really the real threat is Henry Creel.
Yeah, and it's just so, and I know the show wants you to feel this way, but I just think it's so harrowing when you stop back and you sit back and you reflect on that, and you think about, Henry at this point doesn't really have to really do anything if he doesn't want to, because the military is just going to play right into his hands by their actions. And again, it's just so unfortunate, for 11 and everyone else, because the military is going to think that they're helping, when really they're just making things worse, and they're only helping Vecna grow in strength. And they don't know how to defeat him. They don't know anything about how to do anything with the Upside Down. Like, I guarantee you they're going to try to use gunfire to combat the entities from the Upside Down, and it's going to end very poorly. And I'm very scared for Hawkins this season, because I think it's going to be it's going to get a lot worse before it gets better for them.
And it gives me that vibe of, like, they're gonna try to bring, like, firepower, and the monsters of the Upside Down are just gonna take them out. Or we already saw that, like, for whatever reason, Vecna seems to be, like, immortal at this point. He seems to be invincible, because they shoot him, they flambe him, and he survives. So I'm just picturing a scene where they attempt to shoot him, and either, like, I don't know if it's because, like, the vines protect him, maybe, like, his skin is so tough, but they're just gonna, like, try and shoot him, and he's just gonna turn around and be like, was that supposed to do something? And they're gonna realize that, like, bullets don't work. And from what we saw in the other seasons, like, bullets will stop these things, the creatures, temporarily, but they don't work permanently. So I'm just picturing a scene where they try that, And, they all just kind of like shake it off. And now they're really mad. And they just like absolutely like destroy them, like rip them to pieces. That's kind of what I'm picturing.
Yeah, me too.
So, in addition to the trailer and the missing poster, there were also 2 new articles that were published about the Next on Netflix event, where we learned new details about season 5 and the Duffer Brothers' upcoming projects. There have also been a few more articles that have been published since then about this event. So in these we learned that Linda Hamilton will indeed be playing a military character in season 5, and that the radio set looks stunning. We also learned that Netflix's Tudum event, or Tudum, however you pronounce it, will return this year and be held on May 31st, 2025 at the Kia Forum in Los Angeles, California, and will be live streamed on Netflix for the first time.
Yeah, I was kind of hoping that Linda would be playing someone other than military, but I get it. It's when you think of Linda Hamilton, you think of those type of roles, and I think she'll be phenomenal at it. And so I'm at this point curious: is she going to be an ally for 11 or uh, a human villain for 11, human adversary in place of Sullivan? So that's going to be very interesting. And as for the Tudum event, I feel like this is probably when we will get our first like official teaser for season 5, assuming that season 5 will premiere in the fall. I think that's when we'll probably get a teaser trailer, or if it's going to be releasing earlier this year, that'll be the official trailer. But yeah, I think that's when the first official teaser trailer will be released for season 5.
Yeah, that's definite possibility. I think if it doesn't come out before then, I think that's probably when they'll do it. I'm excited that they're going to stream it on Netflix, because normally it's on YouTube, which can be quite glitchy or quite laggy at times, which can be quite frustrating if you're waiting for your show to come up. And Tudum is famous for not really delivering what it promises. You think you're going to get something great and it's kind of lackluster, but then sometimes you do get something good. So I'm excited about that, and it is kind of weird they never streamed it before. I've noticed too, like this year they've been streaming some of the NFL games, and so I wonder if they've either reached a new deal or maybe acquired new technology that allows them to stream things in a way that they like stream things live, rather, the way that they couldn't before, because they've never really had that, and now all of a sudden, and I think they've got some talk shows as well, so I wonder if they've acquired some new technology or struck some new deals there that allows them to do that. So I'm excited that it's going to be streamed on Netflix, and I'm glad it's coming back. They didn't do it last year, and there was no explanation as to why. We all kept waiting. They did Stranger Things Day, they did Geeked Week, but Tudum never came, and there was no press. There was nothing as to where it had gone. So we're all very excited for its return. And I think the fact that they're doing a big venue as well is cool. And yeah, like you, Ashley, I was kind of hoping that Linda Hamilton would be playing something different than what she's known for. I mean, I'm sure she'll do a great job, but I was also hoping that, I don't know, she was going to play like a farmer or somebody's love interest, or just something a bit different rather than just like another character that's similar to her Terminator character that she's really known for. But I'm sure she'll do a great job with it. I found it interesting that the reporters said that the radio set looks stunning, because we've seen photos of this set and it appears to be a dank basement. So I thought that was kind of interesting. Like, I don't know if they meant like the radio equipment, that photo we got, and people thought it might be a like the high school radio station. If that's actually part of the radio stations that we've been seeing, maybe they meant like the control room is stunning, because the parts we've seen that are just like with the couch and it's a basement. It's an unfinished basement with a couch in it. Like, to me, that did not give stunning. Like, stunning wasn't the word I would have used.
Yeah, and I think if I recall correctly, so like at the new on Netflix event where that article or that reporter was at, who wrote the article, I believe that they got those who were in attendance of the new on Netflix event got to see a special behind the scenes teaser trailer sneak peek. It wasn't like an actual teaser trailer, but they got to see like the equivalent of what we got to see in July, except it was different footage and stuff. And so perhaps, maybe, I don't know, maybe they could have gotten to see the control room or maybe the outside of the radio station, like with it being at night or maybe lit up, or something like that. That would be, that's not the only thing I could really think of. They would be so inclined to, as to say it's stunning. Because again, like you said, what we've seen from the behind the scenes stuff, like we've only seen like interiors of, well, no, we saw like there was one that was an exterior, but you know what I mean. It was all pretty just basic stuff. I mean, nothing that made you go, oh, this is stunning.
Yeah, I feel like it's got to be the control room, or, like you said, it's lit up at night from the outside, or I wonder if maybe it's the ground floor, because I'm picturing maybe like a waiting area, like a waiting room, and then like the control room. So maybe that's really stunning, or from the outside, that's really stunning. So, because yeah, I feel like the basement part we've seen is not stunning. It's it appears to be like a storage area or like a hangout area, because radio disc jockeys, they work weird hours, so that part of the set does not appear to be stunning. So they must be seeing something else. Alrighty, so that brings our coverage of the recent promotional materials we've gotten to a close.
Thank you everyone for listening, and we've got some good stuff coming up for you guys episode wise, so we're excited to share that with you.
Alright everybody, see you next time. And that's our show. If you like what you heard today, be sure to subscribe and tell your friends. Our theme music is provided by Neon Knights. Thank you for listening to this episode of Ham Radio, a Stranger Things podcast. Please join us next time, same dial, same time.
Over and out.